What happens when Hollywood's greatest redemption story collides with a late-night host who crosses the line? What happens when the polished mask of entertainment shatters, live on air? In this video, we're peeling back the curtain on a jaw-dropping confrontation between Robert Downey Jr. and Stephen Colbert. A clash that left audiences stunned, producers panicking, and the entertainment world in utter disbelief. What started as a simple promotional interview spiraled into one of the most tense, uncomfortable moments late-night television has ever witnessed, ending with Downey storming off stage as cameras kept rolling. But before we dive into this extraordinary showdown of egos, boundaries, and one celebrity's breaking point, take a moment. Smash that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Tell me, which celebrity interview made your jaw drop the most? Your support helps us expose the raw truth behind these headline moments that mainstream media won't touch. Now, let's rewind to where it all began. What should have been a routine night on late-night TV. The atmosphere was set. Robert Downey Jr., riding high from his latest critically acclaimed performance, was announced as the night's main guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. A victory lap. A smooth sail. Or so it seemed. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered about strict conditions set by Downey's team. Certain topics were completely off-limits, and Colbert's producers agreed. Standard protocol for a Hollywood A-lister. What wasn't standard was how violently those boundaries were about to be shattered. From the second Downey walked onto the stage, regular viewers could sense it. Something was off. Gone was the trademark Colbert hug, replaced by a cold, corporate handshake. Colbert's opening jokes? Dead on arrival. Downey forced a smile, but it was tight, restrained. Body language analysts would later dissect every frame, noting Downey perched on the very edge of his seat, as if poised for a swift exit. Colbert's first line seemed innocent enough, a soft pitch. "You look incredible, Robert. Be honest, 10 years ago, could you have imagined yourself here today?" A nod to Downey's celebrated comeback. Downey, ever the professional, played along. "Life's been good," he replied with a gracious grin. "Every day, I'm grateful for the chances I've been given, and for the people who believed in me." But then, Colbert's tone shifted. "Speaking of opportunities, you've become quite the franchise guy, huh?" Colbert quipped. "Iron Man. Sherlock Holmes. Some critics say, you're just playing the same character over and over, different costumes, same Downey. Any truth to that?" A ripple of nervous laughter rolled through the audience. Everyone sensed the sudden drop in temperature. Downey's smile didn't crack, but his eyes, they tightened. His jaw clenched just a little harder. "Every role is a fresh challenge," Downey answered, voice calm, eyes sharp. "Whether I'm in a suit of armor or a detective's coat, I give it everything I've got." What the millions watching didn't see was the storm brewing behind the cameras. Studio producers, according to multiple crew accounts, were already side-eyeing each other. Colbert, less than 60 seconds into the interview, had gone off-script, ignoring the pre-approved topics. For those familiar with Colbert, this was uncharted waters. He typically respected the pre-show agreements. Something had changed. The next segment was supposed to be a safe zone, promoting Downey's upcoming movie. Instead, Colbert steered the conversation into dangerous waters. "So, Robert," Colbert began, shifting forward in his chair, "this new movie, big budget, big themes, and a big paycheck. Some reports say 8 figures. I mean, that's a lot of zeros while so many actors struggle." Downey glanced sideways, his trained eyes spotting his publicist just offstage, her face frozen, her phone already out. "And your film," Colbert pressed. "It's about redemption, about second chances, something you've got, let's say, first-hand experience with." The reference to Downey's turbulent past was unmistakable, subtle as a sledgehammer. The studio audience physically recoiled. The air turned icy. Downey's lips tightened. His reply was smooth, but icy. "We all have our journeys, Stephen. The film stands on its own." But Colbert wasn't backing off. "Still, life imitates art, right? I mean, your characters fall from grace mirrors some personal history, no?" Downey's eyes flickered toward his publicist, her hands gesturing wildly toward the producers. Then, mercifully, the show cut to commercial. But what the cameras didn't show was chaos erupting during the break. According to audience members who witnessed it firsthand, Downey and Colbert engaged in a heated off-mic exchange. Downey's smile gone. Colbert's posture stiff. Bodyguards, producers, all quietly watching the fireworks. When the show returned, Colbert's tie was adjusted, but his smile crooked. Downey's signature sunglasses remained, but behind them, pure steel. The tension was no longer undercurrents. It was an earthquake, rattling through the studio. And what was meant to be a light-hearted promotional interview was rapidly descending into a clash of egos and a breakdown of trust on national television. The cameras rolled, but this was no longer a talk show. It was a powder keg waiting to blow. Gone was Colbert's playful charm. In its place, a steely determination, sharp and confrontational. Crew members later confirmed. Heated words had been exchanged off-camera, and Downey had warned Colbert point-blank, "You're crossing the line." Yet Colbert pressed forward, the usual rules of late night completely discarded. There would be no safe space tonight, no celebrity worship, only raw, unscripted confrontation. "So," Colbert said, shuffling his note cards, "your character goes through a transformation. Makes me wonder. Any transformations in your life you wish had played out differently?" Downey exhaled slowly. His response was calm, measured. "Every experience shapes who we become. I don't dwell on hypotheticals." But Colbert wasn't finished. He pushed harder. "Let's be specific. You've been transparent about addiction, prison time, a point when Hollywood wouldn't touch you. Do you think about others who made similar mistakes, but never got the same second chance?" Downey's jaw clenched. The slightest muscle twitch betrayed his internal battle. He remained seated, poised, but his knuckles whitened. "Every day," Downey answered coolly, "which is why I've dedicated time and resources to criminal justice reform and addiction recovery. That's where my energy goes." But Colbert wasn't done. "Interesting," he said, narrowing his eyes. "There's been talk, industry whispers, that your return wasn't just talent. It was co-stars lobbying, Marvel fighting behind the scenes just to get you back in the room. Truth to that?" Audience members squirmed. One woman near the front clutched her purse, visibly uncomfortable. Even seasoned late-night viewers admitted later they had never seen anything quite like this. Downey slowly removed his sunglasses. His voice dropped lower, sharper. "Stephen, I'm starting to sense there's a particular angle you're chasing here. Maybe we should just cut straight to it." Colbert's expression shifted, but he kept pushing. "Fine, fair enough. Let's talk numbers. Your latest movie. Reports say the budget skyrocketed because of your compensation package. Many producers believe your demands affected production decisions." And there it was. The final line Downey's team had clearly forbidden. Downey's smile vanished. His reply icy. "Interesting. We're talking about salary now? During a segment meant to highlight a film, not financial negotiations? Strange, especially considering my team was assured this wouldn't happen." Colbert brushed it off with a casual wave. "Just trying to keep it real. Have an honest conversation." "Authenticity," Downey repeated, voice dripping with irony. Fascinating word choice. Offstage, Downey's publicist was now dangerously close to the stage, furiously texting. Producers whispered frantically into earpieces. The floor manager was making wild throat-slashing gestures. But Colbert refused to relent. "So let's pivot," Colbert said, feigning a grin. "Your comeback, your pristine image, some critics say it's all calculated. A polished redemption arc, airbrushed for public consumption. What's your take?" And at that moment, Downey's demeanor completely shifted. The professional mask gone. The trained smile vanished. He leaned forward, gaze locked onto Colbert like a laser. "My take," Downey said, voice low but unmistakably fierce. "My take is that tonight isn't about an interview. It's about you manufacturing a moment at my expense." The room fell silent. Even the house band muted. "Control room?" "Panic." Colbert tried to recover. "I'm asking the questions the audience cares about." "No," Downey cut in, sharp as glass. "Your job is to create an engaging discussion, to highlight the project I've been invited here to promote. What you're doing is baiting me, disguising provocation as journalism." Colbert leaned back, lips tightening. "Maybe you just don't like the tough questions." Downey's posture straightened. His voice calm but thunderous. "There's a difference between tough and cheap shots. Between discussion and ambush. And tonight, you've chosen ambush." Crew members later said the atmosphere was like walking on glass. Every breath, every movement, heavy with tension. Colbert, sensing he was losing control, tried to joke. "No ambush here, just honest conversation." Downey shook his head, leaned even closer. "Then where's the honesty about what I do outside these roles? Where's the talk about my foundation? About the work I fund to help addicts and former inmates? No, you're not interested in that. You want a soundbite. A clip. A headline." Audience members described it later as electric. like standing in the middle of a lightning storm. Colbert forced a grin, clearly rattled. Look, it's just people wonder, is your comeback really authentic? Downey's glare sharpened. Do you wonder, Stephen? Or did your producer whisper that line into your ear? And then it happened. Downey stood up. The air cracked. Downey removed his microphone, letting it drop, the sound echoing through the studio. Colbert's facade faltered, a bead of sweat forming above his brow. He stood instinctively. Robert, maybe we can. But Downey wasn't finished. Facing both Colbert and the audience, his voice rang out, clear, steady, final. This is exactly what's wrong with these conversations. You label discomfort as sensitivity. You call ambushes tough journalism. And you disguise cheap shots as authenticity. I've been open. I've answered everything. But tonight, you didn't come here for truth. You came here for blood. And without another word, Downey turned and walked off. Phones captured it. Despite CBS's no recording policy, footage flooded social media. And by the time the show cut to commercial, history had been made. As Downey disappeared behind the curtains, the studio plunged into stunned silence. Audience members sat frozen, unsure whether to clap, gasp, or simply sit in disbelief. For several seconds, not a word was spoken on stage, until Colbert, visibly rattled, turned towards the camera. We'll be right back after these messages, he muttered, but the smooth confidence was gone. The screen cut to commercial, yet behind the scenes, things unraveled quickly. Sources would later describe the green room as a war zone. Downey's publicist stormed into the control room, demanding every piece of footage be destroyed. CBS executives were already on the phone. Legal teams scrambled, producers whispered frantically about damage control. And Colbert? He vanished, straight to his office, locking the door, refusing to speak to anyone except his top producer. When the broadcast resumed, the atmosphere was unrecognizable. Colbert, now seated alone at his desk, forced out a laugh that sounded hollow, brittle. Well, that was something, he said. The words fell flat. No one laughed. Not the crew, not the audience. Then the segment was over, just like that. Cut to the next guest, a pre-taped segment. Anything to move on from the carnage that had unfolded live. But it was far, far from over. Within minutes, despite CBS's best efforts, shaky cell phone footage flooded the internet. Clips of Downey standing tall, tearing off his mic, walking out while Colbert stood slack-jawed, hit social media platforms like a tidal wave. By midnight, the hashtags were everywhere. Hashtag Downey walks off. Hashtag Colbert confrontation. Hashtag respect Downey. Public reaction was immediate, explosive. Celebrity gossip accounts flooded timelines with play-by-play breakdowns. Fan pages celebrated Downey's composure, praising his refusal to tolerate what many called ratings bait. And by morning, every major news outlet had picked it up. Entertainment journalists had a field day. Colbert's rare misstep, read The Hollywood Reporter. Downey refuses to play Hollywood games, declared Variety. Kristen Barnes, an influential entertainment writer, posted a scorching viral piece. We watched a professional, refused to be a pawn in the late-night machine. CBS scrambled. By early morning, a carefully worded statement was released. We regret the miscommunication surrounding last night's interview. Robert Downey Jr. is a valued guest, and his contributions to cinema are immeasurable. We look forward to future collaborations. One thing, conspicuously absent? Any mention of Colbert. Downey's team remained publicly silent, but insider leaks made it clear. Downey had no regrets. Robert's done explaining himself, one anonymous source told Deadline. He's never hidden from his past, but he won't tolerate it being used as a weapon. Even fellow celebrities joined the conversation. Marvel co-star Mark Ruffalo tweeted simply, "Proud of you, brother. Some things matter more than promotion." By midweek, ripple effects were undeniable. Colbert's ratings saw a brief spike as curiosity seekers tuned in. But what followed was a steady drop. Two high-profile celebrity guests quietly pulled out of scheduled appearances. CBS executives launched internal reviews, holding urgent meetings about show direction. And the atmosphere inside the Late Show offices? Reportedly tense, fractured, divided. Some staff defended Colbert, blaming Downey for being overly sensitive. But others weren't so sure. There's been this push to create viral moments, one anonymous producer told a journalist. And honestly, sometimes we cross the line. Television critics were ruthless. Alan Sepinwall, one of the most respected TV critics, wrote, "Last night was not good TV. It was a public train wreck, and a warning about the pitfalls of sacrificing respect for ratings. In the following days, The Late Show's mood shifted. Opening monologues grew tamer. Celebrity interviews seemed gentler. But for Downey, the fallout was the exact opposite. Public admiration skyrocketed. Support poured in not just from Hollywood, but from everyday people who saw in him a man standing tall against a broken media culture. His upcoming movie? Opened to blockbuster numbers. Critics noting that the Colbert Confrontation may have inadvertently boosted publicity. Downey's Foundation for Criminal Justice Reform received a spike in donations. And the conversation changed. Media outlets no longer focused solely on Downey's past. Instead, talk shows, podcasts, and news articles asked harder questions about the media itself. Why do we glorify gotcha moments? Why are personal tragedies turned into entertainment? And why did Downey's walkout resonate so deeply? Even mainstream networks, reluctant at first, had to admit something had shifted. On CNN, media analyst Jennifer Cho said it bluntly. This wasn't just a celebrity moment. It was a mirror held up to the media machine. 3 weeks after the incident, Downey finally broke his silence. A simple Instagram post, no mention of Colbert, no shade, just quiet, powerful dignity. I believe in second chances, because I've been blessed to receive them. I believe in accountability, because I've lived through it. And I believe in walking away from situations that don't serve truth or compassion. The post, 5 million likes in a single day. By 6 months, the landscape looked different. Colbert's show had stabilized, but never fully recovered. Downey, he received a prestigious humanitarian award for his work supporting formerly incarcerated individuals. During his acceptance speech, Downey said, "True conversations heal, they don't harm." And in the strange aftermath, even late-night television seemed to evolve. Media historian Robert Downey Jr, speaking on NPR, summed it up best. That one night forced a reckoning. It reminded everyone, celebrity interviews aren't supposed to be gladiator matches. They can and should be meaningful. And as for Colbert and Downey, reports confirmed they haven't spoken since. The irony, one Hollywood publicist mused, is Colbert got his viral moment, just not the one he wanted. In the months that followed, the aftershocks of that unforgettable night refused to fade. Colbert's team tried to move on. New guests, light-hearted segments, attempts to inject more humor. But viewers weren't so quick to forget. Industry insiders whispered of internal tension, a fractured creative team, producers who debated every question, fearful of igniting another on-air disaster. Ratings? They fluctuated a brief recovery, followed by unsettling dips. Sponsors grew cautious. 2 advertisers reportedly pulled out, quietly citing concerns about the show's direction. Late-night television, once seen as a cozy refuge for celebrities to promote their latest projects, suddenly felt like dangerous territory. Meanwhile, Robert Downey Jr. stood taller than ever. His public silence spoke volumes. And when he did speak, it was through actions. He doubled down on his foundation's initiatives, visiting rehabilitation centers, funding new educational programs for formerly incarcerated individuals, making private donations to addiction recovery clinics. The media began to tell a different story, not of scandal, but of redemption and genuine, tangible change. Awards poured in, not just for acting, but for humanitarian efforts. Downey became a symbol, not of a comeback story, but of standing firm in the face of exploitation. He didn't need to explain himself. His actions spoke louder than any interview ever could. And yet, the cultural conversation had only just begun. Think pieces appeared in major publications. Podcasts debated the Downey moment, asking, where do we draw the line in celebrity journalism? On The Atlantic, a piercing headline read, when authenticity turns into exploitation. On Twitter, thousands echoed the same sentiment. Downey didn't walk out, he walked tall. The phrase became a movement. #WalkTall trended repeatedly, used by everyone from recovering addicts to mental health advocates, all inspired by the idea of refusing to let others define your story. It wasn't just entertainment anymore. It was personal. It was societal. Even CBS felt the pressure. Whispers from the network revealed that senior executives held reputation recovery meetings. PR consultants were brought in. Strategies were rewritten. Colbert was forced to adapt. Weeks after the incident, on a quiet Thursday evening, he addressed it again. Softer this time, less defensive. I've had some time to reflect, he admitted to his viewers. Sometimes, Even well-intentioned questions can cause harm. I have a responsibility, not just to ask tough questions, but to ask fair ones. But by then, the court of public opinion had spoken. Downey didn't need to say another word. His movie, marketed as a story of second chances, became a box office triumph. Reviews were glowing. Audiences loved it, not just for the cinematic experience, but for what it represented. A man who had faced demons, conquered them, and refused to be dragged back into the shadows. And yet, something even bigger happened. Late-night shows shifted. Competitors adjusted their approach. You could see it. The conversations were warmer, more respectful. The gotcha questions fewer and farther between. As media historian Robert Downey Jr noted in a New Yorker essay, in one powerful moment, Downey forced an entire industry to reconsider its tone. It became known simply as the Downey Effect. For Colbert, the lesson was harsh, but necessary. Over time, he recovered, but the scars remained. His reputation, slightly bruised, his tone, noticeably altered. But for Downey, it was liberation. No longer chained to a narrative of redemption, no longer asked to perform his pain for entertainment, he moved forward, not as a comeback kid, but as a man in full control of his own story. 6 months later, Downey appeared at a charity gala, not a late-night show, but a meaningful event supporting youth outreach. When asked by a journalist if he had anything to say about the Colbert confrontation, Downey smiled politely. "I have nothing but love," he said, before adding with a slight grin. "And boundaries." It was the perfect answer. Subtle, dignified, strong. And that, perhaps, was the greatest lesson of all. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with grace. Downey didn't win a debate that night. He won his freedom. The freedom to be more than a headline. The freedom to define himself. And in doing so, he showed millions watching around the world that dignity doesn't come from fighting back with fury. It comes from knowing when to leave the stage with your head held high. The Downey Effect wasn't just about celebrity interviews, it became a reminder to us all. Your story belongs to you. Don't let anyone take it away. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold celebrity moments. Comment below. Do you think Robert Downey Jr. was right to walk off? Whose side are you on? Hit the notification bell so you never miss our next deep dive into Hollywood's most dramatic moments.